Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dream Life Loading Podcast, Season 2, Episode 35. I'm your co-host, Skye.
I'm your co-host, Susan. How are you today, Skye?
I am doing good. I was saying to you, I feel like we talk so much about the ups on the podcast, and I feel like it's so transparent to just say, we both have days where it's like you just aren't as enthusiastic and ecstatic about life as you are other days. And that's just today, and I don't know what it is. I did everything to my routine. Sometimes, even when you follow the script to set yourself up for success, sometimes it falls short. And I feel like I'm just leaning into that today. Grateful for you going with the flow, recording earlier, just doing what we can. So I don't know. I'm just I'm going to lean into it because clearly my head and my body are we're not feeling 100% today. And let's just lean in instead of trying to fight that. But yeah, I'm just feeling like if I'm usually at 85, I feel like I'm at 65 today. So we're just sitting, mentally I'm like, okay, here we go.
I feel like it's so easy on days like that when you feel like you're not showing up at the higher percentage. It's so easy to just shit on yourself and make
Yes.
yourself feel worse. But if you can get into the habit of just identifying, okay, I'm not in the best mood, that's fine. Then treat yourself. Get
Mhm.
yourself an afternoon coffee or a morning coffee. Whatever you have to do, find pockets of time to just care for yourself. Like how your mom would take care of you if you weren't feeling good.
Yes.
It's not as dramatic as being sick, but nurture yourself because you're not 100%. You're not yourself, so you need that extra care, whether that's you yourself or reaching out to a friend and seeing how they can support you, or having your significant other be aware of it, and maybe Nick cooks dinner tonight, just finding little things that can help, even if it's changing your routine.
Right. No, and I love that. And I think even the point of reaching out to people, I reached out to you and you were like, how are you? And I think we say how are you to each other every single day, and I think we've crafted a friendship where it's not how are you? Oh, I'm good. How are you? Oh, I'm good. Okay.
Don't have time.
No. And so if I'm going to bother to ask somebody how they are, I know the same is true for you. I'm going to actually want that response and I'm going to give that response. So when you asked me, I was transparently here, and I filled you in and you were like, well, what can I do? And I was like, honestly, I am getting nothing productive done. If you can record the podcast early, this is something that always brings me joy. And so I could have just said, I'm good, let's go about our day, whatever, I'll suffer in silence. But by reaching out to you and knowing that I had you to reach out to, I can do something that's actually going to help me instead of just suffering in silence. So I think, I don't know what to take away from that, but
No, we had the flexibility in our schedules to make that adjustment to our routine. So you were able to do it faster. But I mean, you were also giving yourself the support you needed in the meantime. I was like, I need X amount of minutes to finish up my notes. In that time, you journaled. You were already doing the things. But imagine if, let's say, I couldn't have recorded earlier, you probably would have sat on your phone scrolling. I know I would have. I don't want to assume that that's what you would have done,
no,
but
it's
I would have just been
exactly.
on TikTok scrolling because I was miserable and didn't want to be focused on what I should be doing. But
Yep, 100%. And I'm
so
excited for the 100-day challenge to start because I feel like
yes.
if and when that moment happens in 9 days from now, let's say, when the challenge starts, it's okay, well, Susan's not available to record earlier, understandably so. We had a plan for X time, whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I can do this challenge because this is something intentional that I've decided to do every single day for the next 100 days. These are easy tasks that we've designed to kind of fit into those pockets of your day, whether it's the last minute pockets or the end or beginning of your day. So that would have been something productive that I could have done as well.
Now that you said that, that might be part of your bad day, is where we're kind of in stagnant mode waiting
Yep.
for that to start. We put so much energy into making it. We had the high of launching it, and now we have a week in between of waiting to start it. And I know that I'm itching to start it, but I'm waiting too. So there's always a lot of things
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
factors.
It is. And I think it is change. I feel like we're always I don't know, we got incredible news yesterday, but I think that is part of it too. And I won't go into all the personal side of it, but it is there's always even when it's when you are given the best news, there's always the for lack of a better term, like the repercussions of like, okay, let's fit that into X, Y, and Z and everything. So I think it's so honestly, I should go and take some of our advice from our change management episode and probably put
Yes.
some of that to good
You're at
use.
the bottom of the wave right now. So come
Yes.
on, and
Yes.
it'll
And
all
that's
work
where I was
out.
like, I'm just gonna like, I'm gonna feel the feels and I know we'll go back up, you know, like just trusting the process, which I think is something you and I have really like accepted over the past year or 2 years at this point. And like, you know what? It's all ebbs and flows. How are you?
I'm good. I can't believe I'm saying this, but like this low key feels like this might be the last time you guys see me before I have a baby.
I know. I said that last night to like to myself. I was like, this is happening.
Last week, I don't think no, that happened after we recorded last week. So we didn't even talk about this. So last week I had I wasn't too scared about it, but I got a really bad Charlie horse and then I couldn't walk for probably 4 days. But I called my doctor after 24 hours of not being able to walk because that was not normal. And I have a blood clotting disorder. So they were like, automatically had me do the protocol for blood clots. So I went and got an ultrasound of my whole, like the artery in my entire leg. No blood clot, which is great. I figured I just strained my calf muscle from that Charlie horse. It was so intense. And then today I'm like falling apart. I have the worst pain in my upper right side under my ribs. I'm like, no clue what it is. She's not like high up in my ribs. I know what that feels like. So we'll see. If I'm still feeling like this after we record, I'll put a call into my doctor,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
It's all,
Ride the waves.
it feels like all of these like little signs leading up to like it feels like you're in the process of like like what do I know? So take this with a grain of salt, but like it feels like you're in the early stages of like she's preparing you. She's like, get ready because I'm coming. Like it's happening.
Get used to your day not going to plan.
Yes.
Um, well, I mean, I guess, well, no, I don't know how to make a segue out of that without it being fucking weird.
Yeah,
So today's
that's fine.
episode is about the psychology of goal setting, or at least I hope that's what we both took notes on.
It is, yes.
Perfect. Perfect. That would be our luck that one of
Yeah.
us had not the right note.
Shit, I did the one for 3 weeks from now. Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about?
Well, that's why, because we never plan our weeks that far in advance. Usually it's the week of, but
Yep.
so goal setting, let's talk about it. I feel like this is kind of a perfect way to get us both out of a slump too. I know yesterday I was just kind of like watching the clock. I was like, I
Yeah.
need to get out of here. Like, just I don't know if lack of motivation was what it was, but I felt very similar to the way you're feeling today. So there's something in the air.
Yeah.
But goal setting is linked to higher motivation, self-esteem, self-confidence, and autonomy. I don't know what that word means.
I mean, like, a ton, I think it, I'm looking it up. Keep talking. I'm gonna look it up.
um, so those things obviously are going to make you feel better if you can generate them. Um, and then I learned most of my notes were about like different processes of goal setting and then the emotions that they're gonna like provoke.
Ooh, I
So
like that.
I had never
Before you
heard
get into
of,
it, autonomy is independence or freedom as of the will or one's actions. So you're kind of, I'm gonna interpret that as like you're taking control of your own life with your goals.
yeah, that feels like independence.
Yes.
That sounds like a very doctory word.
Yeah, I like independence better.
We'll scratch that. I'm changing that in my notes. um, so there's actually an ABCs to goal setting. Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, I had never heard this. I'm like, I used to teach goal setting to my students. How have I never heard of this? So the ABCs of goal setting are achievable, believable, and committed. And it's like,
Mm.
oh, so much sense. It's essentially like
Yes.
a different take on SMART goals, but
Yes.
making sure it's achievable and then believable. That's the one where I think I struggled the most when I was manifesting because it was like I would make this huge goal and I'd be like, I'm gonna write it 100 times, but I didn't really believe it. Like I would write it and I would like pretend to believe it if I was talking about it with like you or Chris or whatever. But if you don't believe it deep down, it's not gonna happen. motivation.
Yep.
And then just being committed to it, which is consistency and being intentional, which is
I
all.
love that you had this, that you found these ABCs because achievable, believable, and committed, or committed, that was the third one.
Yeah.
Those are all
Yep.
words I had written down in my notes, and I had no idea that the AB. So it's perfect. This sums it up so beautifully. I had written down SMART goals, and I almost hesitated writing it down because SMART goals, like, I mean, we've been learning about SMART goals middle school, high school, and I was like, but we're taught them over
They
and over
work.
for a reason. What'd you say?
Okay. I said, because they work. And
Right.
I also, when I got to the part about SMART goals in my research, I skipped over it. However, did you know that there's an addition to SMART goals?
I don't know. I don't think
They
so.
they have smarter goals. And the ER
Ooh.
on the tail end of that is evaluative and rewarding. And I was like, oh, I like the ER. So I wrote it all out because I was like, if I write ER, I'm not going to remember what it goes.
Yep.
But so SMART goals, just a recap if you've never heard of them: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. And then if they're smarter,
Mhm.
evaluative and rewarding.
Yep. I love it. And I think it's we were taught them in school because it was like, okay, like you're going to be like come up with a goal for the semester or the year or whatever, and it was like, okay, sure, like, and you go through your list and you write the S and the M and the A, and it's like, okay, but that formula works because you're creating a goal that you can actually complete because of these steps. We don't have to go in more into SMART goals because you've either heard about them and you like them, or you've heard about them and you don't. And we're not here to, like, if it doesn't work for you, let's go into some of the other ideas here because it's not just about SMART goals. I had found this list that kind of broke down setting and accomplishing goals. And I really liked the way it broke it down, starting with your current situation. Not only just like where are you and where do you want to be, but what works for you and what doesn't. Like, let's look back at if you've used SMART goals before. Okay, did that work for you? Or maybe it didn't. And kind of taking the time to evaluate what individually is going to work for you. Like, are you somebody that has to do something towards your goal every day to make sure that you're staying committed? Or are you somebody that can maybe do something once a week and that's getting you on the path of, like what's going to work for you is not
Yeah.
going to work for somebody else. Like, so starting there, make it a SMART goal, write your goals down. I think this is probably the biggest advice that I know you and I both, we are crazy about writing our goals down. To take it one step further, put your goals somewhere where you're going to see them often. Don't write them down and then throw them in a drawer. Like, put them, mine are in my journal, so there's something I see every single time I open my notebook. And seeing them every single day is that constant reminder of like, okay, and the reason we did this episode today is because we're halfway into the year. So the goals we wrote at the beginning of 2024, we're now halfway through hopefully completing them. So I open my book and I'm like, okay, I did those goals 6 months ago. Like, what am I actually doing for me day to day to get me towards it? So I love writing them down and then breaking them down. I think this is something that I haven't been good about until this year. If I want to do something, okay, I want to be fluent in Italian, for example, write it down. All right, well, I'll practice, like, I'll be fluent by the end of the year because I made it a goal. A lot of goals, I think, need mini goals in the realm of your big goal. Like, okay, if I want to be fluent in Italian by the end of 2024, which is a SMART goal because it's time bound and it's this, and this, now how am I going to make that happen? Okay, I'm going to sign up for Italian classes. I'm going to practice Italian every single day on one of my apps, Duolingo, Babbel, whatever. Like, break it down and give yourself smaller goals to lead up to the big goal. And then I think it's also rewarding because you can check off the little mini goals instead of just having the one big goal that you're waiting to check off. That was a tangent, but I hope that made sense.
No, it definitely did. You walked us through the process of creating a goal and then how you're going to implement it to be every day.
Exactly.
And that's huge. And I think a lot of times people get stuck on not knowing or being able to break it down into smaller goals. And I think that that's just where it becomes a habit. So,
Yes.
like, I think a lot of times too is people want to break things evenly. So let's say you want to make $1,000 in a month. So you, naturally, like, our brains are trained to break that, divide 1,000 by 30 and figure out the dollar amount for every day. So then it's so easy on that, third day of the month and you haven't made X amount of dollars, it's so easy to get discouraged and then quit. And I think that that's when people walk away, and that's where goals get left to die
Yeah.
essentially. But I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on like monetization,
Yeah.
how people like, like what I got paid for my first month being monetized or stuff like that. Just for context, I want to see like what that looks
Yeah.
like. And it's so funny because there's always like a lull in the beginning of the month, and then there's usually a spike in the middle of the month. That's because people have still been posting consistently. They didn't log on the first and say, I didn't make any money today, so I'm done posting on YouTube. They just stuck with it, and then they had a huge spike. And then that's how a lot of people make thousands of dollars, is one video that did good 6 months ago. It's a lot of goals. You're not going to see the results instantaneously, and you have to be okay with letting the instant gratification go and
Yes.
just being part of the process. Which this was the other part of the things that I learned in my research was there's three types of goals. So there's process goals, which is executing plans. There's performance goals, which is tracking your progress. So let's say you're trying to lose weight. So the goal is to lose weight. The
Mhm.
process is finding a routine that works for you. So you're going to the gym, you're eating better, whatever those habits and routines are. Then you have your performance goals. So tracking your progress to give you a reason to continue. So now you're feeling better. People are complimenting you, or you know that you're losing weight in whatever capacity it is. And then the outcome is the successful implementation of the final goal. So then you hit your goal weight, or you changed your lifestyle and you're feeling better and all these things. But I didn't realize that there was three different types of goals. So if you feel like you're not succeeding, you're probably only not succeeding in your outcome goal, but
Right.
you're probably succeeding in your process and your performance goals.
Yep. I really like that. And I don't think one of those can happen without the other. And I think if you're only focused on the outcome goal and you're not doing the work to get there, that's when goals die, like to
Yeah.
put it bluntly. So I think it's very important to look at any goal, like the overarching goal, as this three-parter. I feel like, yes, like there is different types of goals, but you can't have a goal with only two of those parts. Like I think every goal is made up of those three parts. At least that's the way I'm seeing it in my head.
Yeah.
But I think from experience, the goals that become successful for me are the goals that aren't like, I'm going to hit 10,000 followers on TikTok. Because what happens when I hit that? Like, then do I sit back and be like, I made it. I'm good to go. Like, there, I did it. Like, check. That's where I at least fall into a pattern. Like, that's where it doesn't work for me. So I think when you create a goal that becomes a system and it becomes a habit where it's like, okay, my goal is I'm going to post on TikTok 3 times a day, every single day, which I know is going to lead me to being successful, to gaining followers, to making money, whatever. Those are also goals. But if my actual goal is the consistency and the system of it, then it's going to
Mhm.
be ongoing versus the goal that's going to eventually just be checked off and then that's it.
Right. And I think that we as people are just misplacing our goals. So I
Yes.
think if you have the goal to get 10,000 followers, I think before now that has always been your outcome goal, but that should be a performance goal because it's
Mhm.
tracking progress to something. If you're trying to
Yes.
build a following on social media, I'm going to assume that your goal is to be doing this full time, or to be making money, or to be doing something with it other than just having fun. Like if you
Yep.
have a specific number goal, you probably have another number goal on the other side.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that would be your outcome, is to be doing this full time, or to get enough followers to what am I trying to say? To like get you
Um,
performance indicators. So like if you want to be sorry, YouTube is just on my brain. So like if you
no,
want to be
that's fine.
monetized,
Yeah.
you have to hit like a certain amount of followers,
Mhm.
watch hours, that sort of thing. So like your three goals there, they're performance goals,
Yep.
and then the outcome is that you get monetized. It's
Right.
the same thing, just apply it to TikTok. Like
Yes.
if you're trying to get picked up by a management agency or whatever it may be.
Yeah. And I like that because these are goals that like when you check off like okay, now I have X amount of watch hours, so now I'm one step closer to being monetized. the goal keeps kind of getting pushed. So it's almost like you never complete your final goal. Like, yes, you'll be monetized, but then you know you're going to have another goal on the other side of that because, okay, now I'm monetized, but I want 20,000 a month, whatever. I don't know what these numbers are,
Yeah.
but if you create, I don't know if this exists. If not, we're creating it right now. Goals that are growing with you. So instead of
Yes.
having concrete goals, let's create moving goals. Like for
Yeah.
last year, for example, one of my goals was be an influencer. That's what I wrote down. I look at this at the end of the year. I'm like, how the hell was I supposed to be able to check that off? Like, what does
Right.
that mean? Like, why did I didn't take the time to flush it out. And Nick was like, well, you influence some people, like whatever. And I'm like, okay, sure, fine.
It
Let's do
wasn't
better next year.
specific.
It was not specific at all. And it was very concrete. It was like, okay, like, now what? So a growing
Yeah.
goal, if we want to be monetized, whatever, let it grow with you so that it's kind of never ending and you're continuing to just push yourself so that you look back and you're like, oh, I remember when that was my goal, but look at all these other goals I've added on top of it because I know I can do it because I'm putting these systems in place to just continuously succeed.
Right.
Continuing to succeed, I don't know.
Right. So like if you want to be an influencer, I would write down your list of dream brands you want to do
Mm,
collaboration.
yep.
And then as you go, you cross them off. And then
Yep.
maybe a brand stops aligning with your content or what you want, and you take them off.
Mhm. I like this mindset of like take it's almost like we're creating a giant web. Like take your starting point and then okay, all right, Skylar, if you want to be an influencer, what does that actually look like? Like you said, what brands are you going to work with? How much are you going to make monthly? What does a day in your life look like? You're big on this and it's always done so well for me taking this advice is okay, if you're an influencer, what time are you going to wake up? What are you going to do while you drink your coffee? When are you going to make your content? What is your content going to look like really flush it out so that you can so the believable part, make this believable, not only that you trust that you can actually do it, but make it believable that you can physically visualize this believable goal instead of I'm going to be an influencer and somehow it's going to happen. Like actually flesh it out and make it a reality.
Right. So this is actually the perfect segue into this next piece is that there's this thing called the triple E, which I had never
Mm,
heard about. And your goals should enlighten you, encourage you, and enable you. So they I mean, I don't know how else to put that, but they should be enlightening. So they're gonna like bring something out in you. They're gonna excite you. Like if you're not excited about something, you're not gonna do it. Like let's not just sit here and pretend that you're going to. Like if you don't want to be, I think this is a great example. If your family has this expectation of you to go and be a doctor and you don't want to be a doctor, you want to be whatever, a trash man,
yep.
you're not going to enjoy college. You're not going to put all that effort in the time that you would into something, learning a trade or learning whatever it is that you really want to. So
Yep.
make sure that it's something that excites you, something that makes you want to work on it every single day. It encourages you, so you're motivated by it, even on the days where you don't necessarily want to, but you're like, I know that this will be worth it in the long run,
Yep.
and then enables you. So it enables, this is like that outcome again. Like it enables the lifestyle in the day-to-day life that you want.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Instead of like, I'm going to be happy and healthy and successful in my life, like, okay, that's a lovely goal, but there's literally nothing in that that you can measure. So I love that, like, make your goal specific to give you the outcome that you want. Like, yeah, I'm trying to flush out what you just said, but I completely agree with that. And there was something you said earlier about we were talking about like little checkpoint goals and something like that. And I think the habit tracker has been so helpful for me this year because I feel like I physically am seeing how I'm getting myself towards my goal every single day. And even if it's like, oh, well, my video today only got 300 views and like I'm failing at this, whatever, it's like, no, my goal is to post every single day. I did that. Like you're seeing. So I think calling it a habit tracker might be the wrong word. Like it is more of a goal tracker, at least the way
Yeah.
I know you, because your YouTube videos every single month, these goal recap videos that you've been doing is the perfect way to flesh out your goals and see like what
Yeah.
worked, what didn't, how can we improve, whatever. But the goal tracker, it's you're seeing your progress. Like if you want to be fit, okay, well, I'm seeing I worked out like 5 out of 7 days last week. So I know I am working towards that big goal. Like it's an easy way to feel productive and keep you consistent every single day, seeing it like flushed out like that.
I smell a goal setting workbook in the works.
Why have we never done that?
Because we have so many other things going on. But
No,
that should be next on the list. Like that should be, because think about it, just having this conversation alone, like you talking about your spider web, I'm picturing like a tree. So like your process is your roots, and then the next part is your performance, and then the outcome is like the leaves. And you don't blossom all, nothing blossoms all year round. So unless you're a cactus, I guess. Um, but we can go back to cactus friends on that because we know
no.
we prickly people. Um, but there's just so many different ways that you can look at it. And I think that SMART goals don't work for so many people. One, because we shove them down students' throats and we force
Yep.
them to apply them to goals that they don't care about. And that was something that was huge for me. Like, I'm sorry, I hate math with every ounce of my being. I don't want to sit here and put a SMART goal
Yep.
to my math grade this year. I really don't care that much. But I do care about other things. So when I was doing this with my students, and I actually wrote this down, we did a whole unit on goal setting, and I tried to make it not about English. Like
Yeah.
these goals do not need to be about your English grade. And I would always make them, we would start with watching John Doerr, which is John, just regularly spelled Doerr. Watch his TED Talk because he talks about setting correct goals that are actually achievable. And it's just very nice. I'm not going to summarize that. You can go watch it if you're
Yeah.
interested. Um, but we would always start with that. And then I would ask them to like think about anything that you want to do. It doesn't have to be school related. I know we're sitting in school, but like if you want to improve your soccer game, if you want to buy a truck, like whatever it may be, let's focus on that. And then let's break it down. So then maybe one day you look back in this and you're like, oh my goodness, I did achieve it. Or maybe you didn't, but you have something that resonates to you. You're not going to pick that piece. You're going to throw that piece of paper out if it's about your English grade. But
Yep.
if it's about something that you like, maybe you keep it and look back at it, back
Yep.
on it one day.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, we're thinking here in a sense, like these are goals that you're choosing to set for yourself. Like, obviously, there's like everybody has goals at their job that aren't goals that they've set themselves. Like, your boss will say, like, you need to hit this by the end of the quarter. Like, you need, like, we all have goals like that, and we work towards them because, like, instead of being inspired, or what was the three E's again? What were the three E's?
Enlightened, encouraged, enabled.
Okay,
So, I
so,
mean, if you're setting work goals, you're enabling your current career, which
right.
could possibly get you to where you need to be.
Yes, and like financials are a big motivator. So like work, I think you're going to get
Right.
motivated to do your goals because you get paid whatever. But if you're setting goals for yourself, they should be like personal goals. Being excited about it has to be the first thing before you even try and dive into like actually creating a goal. It has to be something that really excites you, not like, oh, well, like I see everybody else doing this, so I should do this for myself. It's like, well, are you gonna like ask yourself, like, are you gonna commit to doing that are you gonna commit to doing like with all of these examples, if you have this goal, what's it going to look like if and when you actually make that happen? Like, are you going to have the motivation to like make this goal a reality? I think that's a question that we can ask ourselves. Like, yeah, you want to be successful and you want to do this and you want to do that, but do you actually want to do what comes with that? Like, successful people don't just sit back and let it happen. Like, they're going to do the work every single day to get there and then continue to do the work to make it stick. So, do you have that motivation in you? And if it's something that you're excited about, the answer is probably yes, which is a good sign that you're on the right track. But if you're like, oh man, like that's not really my vibe, like I don't know, I'm not into that, probably pick a different goal because if you don't even have the motivation to make it happen, you're definitely not going to have the motivation to make it stick.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
I don't know where to go from there. Let me go back to my notes here.
Um, I have my last note was by setting goals, you are maximizing success, minimizing failure, and optimizing your abilities.
Mhm.
Which makes sense because you're literally isolating what you want and how you're going to get there.
Yep. Yeah, I really goals is something we talk about all the time, and I think this is the first year where I've felt like I've actually created goals that are possible for myself. I think
Me.
there's a part where you're like, well, goal setting can feel like you're like creating your dreams, you know, like, oh, well, I want this, I'll write it down, I'll make it happen. And I remember we talked about this at the end of 2023 where we were both like, what was I thinking with this goal? Like, how did this make sense? And
Because
it's
they weren't believable.
exactly. And it wasn't believable in two ways. Like, did we really believe and visualize that we were going to do these things? Like, our Chanel bags, for example. We were like, end of this year, we're going to buy each other Chanel bags. In theory, that sounds fantastic. But if we're going to buy each other Chanel bags, obviously we're going to be in a place financially where we can turn around and do that for each other. So our goals should have been, okay, we're going to make X amount per month and put X amount away for these bags. You know, like we did not plan for this. So I think there has to
We're
be
just planning on.
yeah.
I distinctly remember these conversations. We were just banking on millions of dollars
Yep.
just kind of falling out of the sky.
Yep.
I
And I think
mean,
you have to
what a life.
have that like unfortunate disappointment of like, oh man, this is a lot harder than I thought. Because now, a full year later, and we're like, I think I left it in the other room. I think half the goals on my list are checked off, and we're halfway through the year. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really proud of myself. And I think you should always praise yourself for your goals. I think that's so important to share your successes with your friends, like share the exciting things in your life because you're working really hard towards these goals. But yes, I was like, this is really cool that I'm doing so well on my goals, but it also wasn't surprising because I set myself up for success at the beginning of the year to say, these are all the things I want to complete and check off, and I'm going to do it, and here's how. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I wonder if I'll make that happen like it was 2 years ago. It was like, no, this is the list of things I am going to get done this year, and I'm going to make sure that that's what happens.
Exactly.
And that's so rewarding and empowering to know that you can make it happen. And goals are such a cool way to prove to yourself that you can do it.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Favorites?
Yeah. My quote of the week is what you aren't changing, you're choosing.
Whew.
Yeah. So this one, the first thing I thought of was like, these are, you could apply this to bad habits. But the first thing I thought of was like, if you're letting someone treat you like crap, you're choosing that.
Yes. Wow, I really like that goal. I'm gonna start putting our goals in the, or sorry, our quotes in the description. I think that would be
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. So we'll, because I want people to be able to like hear them, but then like look at them again and be like, wow.
We
Um,
can put them on the grid too.
Yes, yeah. My quote is from the book I was reading. Her name is, I'll go fast, Kacie Rose. She is an American living in Italy. She gained a huge following and just wrote a book. So I've been following her for over a year now, and I was like, oh my God, you wrote a book. I'm so excited to read it. This book was insane, especially for someone who's living abroad. Like it hit home in so many different ways, and her whole mantra is like do the shit that scares you. So I was like, yes, I'm in. But the quote that I grabbed was, I was outside of my comfort zone, sitting comfortably in the uncomfortable. Like nothing has ever described moving abroad better than that quote. It's like I feel so seen. And I was like, oh, I love that. It's so like so my brand, so obviously her brand, but I was like, I love the being comfortable in the uncomfortable is like, yes.
Oh, I love that. I had actually seen that book before I realized you followed her. And then you had posted a picture with the book, and I was like, oh my goodness, I was going to send this to you. So very fitting. I love the page that you sent me last night. I read it out loud to my
Right?
mom, and she's like, oh my God, I love this.
You should honestly, I think even if you're not traveling abroad, like I obviously gravitated towards it for those reasons, but I think it's just a book about getting out of your comfort zone, embracing fear, embracing change. I think it is a book that everybody can benefit from, and it's a very lighthearted read. Like it's not like heavy, and I recommend it to anybody. I think you'd love it. Everybody would love it.
Love that. My favorite of the week is my yoga ball.
Are you on it right now?
I am, yeah. Because I was
Good.
like, I can't breathe. So we'll
Yep.
see if like sitting in a different position feels
Yes.
better.
Oh my
So
God. Very quickly, my favorite is my chia pudding. I have to switch up my breakfasts, and this past couple weeks have been chia pudding, and it's so fun. And that's my. We'll wrap up with chia pudding and yoga balls.
And Chocoball. You guys know what to do. Like, subscribe, leave a review, and we will see you next week, hopefully.
Yes. Thank you for listening. See you next time.